Hey guys, this is Red and Blue, your channel on all things PSG in English. Today I thought we'd do something different and not talk about PSG, but instead spend the time talking about Man City, who had a really interesting game against Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League last night. And I think it's a good opportunity to kind of keep track on the other big teams of Europe. I've done videos on Real Madrid, on Liverpool, and so I think in this case, like, wanted to talk about Man City. And yes, there's a few things to take away from this game. Overall, like the scoreline is very, very dominant. But if I'm candid, like I thought the game was a lot more balanced than what the scoreline looks like. In the end, possession was about 50-50 at the end of it. And I think, Man City just like in the end got the win mostly by being very very clinical up front and being very great at converting their strong points and their opportunities in the game. Dortmund actually started the game better. I think like the first 20 minutes are more or less dominated by Dortmund, and then like just as Man City is getting into the game, they actually scored two goals within 10 minutes, and they actually could have scored three. So between like the 20th and the 30th minute, they end up like 2-0 up, first by Foden and then from Haaland. And it's really like perfect example of like very clinical, very cold-blooded, like, doesn't take 12 chances to score. The first goal from Foden, honestly, like, it's funny because like it's really like made from almost nothing. He's got like 2 meters of space in front of him, out just outside of the area, and the defenders take maybe like 2 seconds too long to go at him. Kobel, the Dortmund goalkeeper, is maybe half a step like too much to the left, and so can't cover all the way to his post on his right. And yeah, Foden, he gets like 1 second and a half, curls the shot on the ground, right next to the post from outside the area, and it's 1-0 up. And honestly, like, yeah, that goal is like really comes out of nowhere a little bit. Man City is getting into the game and is starting to balance out a little bit. But still, at this point, it's like a goal very much against the run of play. And you can see that like Dortmund, it really hits them over the head, and they lose focus a little bit because just after there's another big opportunity for Man City, and just after that they score the second one by Erling Haaland, who's at the far post, I think a cross by Doku, who dribbles and like accelerates past a few Dortmund defenders, and manages to cross all the way across to Haaland. And Haaland, like I was looking at this and thinking of Barcola, like Haaland, like when he gets the ball, he's really like he's not asking himself any question. He's sending like as strong as he can at the back of the net. And yes, it is 2-0 up. They essentially control the rest of the first half and go back to the dressing room 2-0 up at halftime. And honestly, like it's not undeserved because like being able to control the game, it's a characteristic of a strong team. Being able to like take in like the strong times of your opponent, and not concede during those, it's also a mark of a strong team. But at the same time, yeah, if I think of the City of old and like the Guardiola of old, where it's really like a machine where like they take possession and you never see the ball back and it's very relentless and so on. I didn't really like get that sensation there. Even like if I compare with PSG's game against Bayern, I thought like both teams in that game were pretty far ahead of like what I've seen of City and Dortmund on this game in terms of intensity and in terms of physicality, which really surprised me because that's really what you expect English teams to be great at. And I think on this game, candidly, like, yeah, this is not really like what we saw of City. In the second half, they come back, they score the third goal by Foden again. The same kind of opportunity, even less of an opportunity as the first one, because he has less space and less time. But same thing, he curls a shot from just outside of the area, right at the edge of the goal, like next to the post. 3-0 up, and like the game is essentially done at this point. Kudos to them. Like Dortmund really puts in a strong effort at this point. It's also like, in the second area, like, yeah, Dortmund really comes at City in a way that like you can see that there's a point where City is not in control anymore. They concede one goal out of a set piece that's well negotiated by Dortmund, but there's really a couple of opportunities as well. And City is like laying low and really like, they at some point they play 5 at the back, they play like a 5-4-1, which is really, really like, defensive minded for a team like City. And so, yeah, like same thing, right when Dortmund is really like they scored one goal back, they're 3-1, and they're really trying to push as much as they can to see if they can like create some craziness in the last minutes. Cherki, who just comes on the pitch, gets a ball back, drives it across from the left side to the center, and same thing as Foden, gets a shot. I think he's right out inside of the area this time, but gets a shot past Kobo, and it's 4-1. And honestly, like, yeah, it's not undeserved in the end. It's a very dominant win, and it's a very good team in lots of ways, and we'll get into that. But yeah, it's just not as dominant as I was expecting from a Guardiola team and an English team in the Champions League. So I thought that was interesting. And yeah, going into details tactically, you do see like the Guardiola of it all, in the sense that he really overloads the midfield. And you've got like the midfield three between Reinders, Nico Gonzalez, and Foden. And then like their left back actually drops, like Nico Riley drops into that as well. And so they really have an overload, because Dortmund is playing a 3-4-3, so with only 2 central midfielders. And so that area of the pitch ends up very, very clearly dominated by City, which means when they get control of the ball, they could actually hold it there and just like, pass it around, wait to create some stuff, move it left to right and right to left, and see if they can spot some openings in the Dortmund defense. But actually, a lot of time, I think like they go forward relatively quickly. And so as a result, they don't necessarily like hold on to possession as much as you would expect. And I think, when they move up front, in the end, it becomes less tactical and more reliant on individual players, was the sensation that I got. And I think, obviously a player like Haaland, like, man, he's so impactful. And so a lot of time it's just a game of trying to get to him, or like looking at him for him to like create spaces by dragging defenders towards himself. Even like Savinho or Doku on the wings, they do try to create mayhem, but it's also a game of like trying to cross back to Haaland. So everything kind of converges, and so there's less unpredictability. And once again, if I compare to teams like Bayern or PSG, where you get fullbacks who come into attack, or you get like midfielder who project and end up in like very offensive position, you don't see as much of that from this Man City. There was one opportunity that their left fullback gets, where he ends up like on the penalty spots and he gets a shot at goal. But apart from this, it's actually like, yeah, pretty expected, I think, tactically. Like there's less surprises, and they do rely on the excitement that they get from their individual players. So I talked about Haaland, who's definitely a big weight on the opposition defense. Foden had a pretty amazing game. He scores 2 goals, and he's very dangerous at the edge of the area. And you see that like if you leave him half a pace of space, he's going to create something. I thought the wingers like Doku and Savinho, I found them less impressive. if I'm honest. Good technician, and in the case of Doku, is obviously very fast and very skilled with his feet. But at the same time, it didn't feel like they were making full use of it. It felt like the game was actually like very centralized, both in midfield and in attack. And so there's not a lot of width to the game. And so they do like, lose a little bit of the use out of their winger. Obviously Cherki, when he comes on for the last 15 minutes or so, 20 minutes or so, it does create a little bit of excitement as well, because he's got this sort of ability to make runs at the defense, to dribble, to also like take the ball and hold the ball so that the team can move back up. And then ultimately, like, he makes a run, like I said, he makes a run from the left wing to the center and ends up like being able to take a shot and scoring a goal. It's a good entry for him, but it's also like, it doesn't feel like the combination of a collective move or a collective setup that's been like thought out or invented or something. It's more like the individual talent of the players that's making his way through it. And on the other side, like talking about Dortmund as well, I thought it was interesting because honestly, I did feel that this team, they were objectively like not as strong technically, and I think they do miss a little bit of that quality that Man City players have. But at the same time, tactically, the back three was, despite getting 4 goals scored on them, I thought like relatively like sharp and in place. It's just that they had so much to do with Haaland that they leave a bit like half a meter of space to Foden outside of the area, and Foden scores 2 goals out of it. But ultimately, like, the expected goal ended up at like just slightly under 2 for Man City versus around 1 for Dortmund. So it's not like as much of a rout as the score suggests. And then offensively, like, it's interesting. They do miss a little bit of precision, a little bit of like clinicality, like clinicness, whatever it might be, like being a bit clinic with their opportunities. They've got a couple of players up front in Guirassy, who's very good. They've got Adeyemi as well, who I really like actually, and I thought he's like very, very interesting on this game. Takes runs, stretches the block on the side, comes back, and like he's got this appetite for goal. He always like cuts back inside to go for goal. And with his pace and with his feet, like he's a real danger, even for a defense like Man City. And I think, tactically, Dortmund was very smart because, like I said, they were dominated numerically in midfield. So they tried to find their way around that. So either they went to the sides and tried to like exploit the width of the pitch in a way that Man City wasn't really doing. And so they do have a few open positions, either through their left winger or like Adeyemi on the right. Even like the right back moves up pretty high to help out with this. And then Guirassy in front. Sometimes they try to just like have long balls over the midfield and go straight from defense to attack. Kind of route a little bit. And you can see that's creating not massive problem for City because they're obviously a good defense, and so they can take it, and ultimately, like, they only concede 1 goal, but they do manage to create some opportunities. And you think against like stronger teams and stronger players, or teams where there's more of a contest in midfield, all of a sudden, like, this City team doesn't look impossible to beat, and so ultimately, like, that was kind of my takeaway from this game, is that I think I said it earlier, a dominant win, but not really a dominant team in City. And so it's going to be interesting to see how they fare when they face stronger opposition in the Champions League, and teams who might be able to challenge them a little bit more, both in terms of, closing down spaces in defense and really like having that higher tempo of pressing, but also up front, like having more quality and being able to create a little bit more. So we'll have to follow this on. For now, like this Dortmund team is actually sadly it's like now they moved ahead of PSG because we lost to Bayern. I think they're at 10 points after 4 games. They had 3 wins and one draw. So they're just a little bit ahead of us. But yeah, honestly, like it feels like if that's the opponent that we get in the knockout round or like the quarterfinal or something like this, from what I saw yesterday, like yeah, it's an opponent that we should be able to take on. Once again, like the truth of November is not the truth of March, so we'll have to keep an eye on them. They do have very very talented player and a very very talented coach as well. So we'll see how they evolve and if they keep cooking. Okay, for now, this is what I had for you guys on the Ice Cold City. Let me know if you've seen the game and what you thought of it, or like what's your perspective on City team? Is it a team that looks scary to you or not? And as always, if you made it this far in the video, please drop a like for it. It really helps with the algorithms of it all. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed. Primarily PSG, but you see, once in a while we talk about other things football as well. And don't forget, as always, even in City, ici c'est Paris!